Okay. All right. So, welcome everybody to our very first session of our new member-led virtual professional development series that we're calling Carolina TESOL Impact. What's really exciting about this series is that not only are we going to be able to hear best practices and get our professional development from one another, but we also get to offer our Carolina TESOL members opportunity to demonstrate leadership across our two states because leading and hosting one of these sessions is definitely a leadership move. And so we want to thank and welcome Jason Herrera from Warren County Schools for being with us today and for stepping in as our very first Carolina TESOL Impact presenter. So thank you so much, Warren, for being, or Jason, for being here. And we are going to hear from Jason in just a minute. But first, I'd like to talk to you all about our new Google Classroom. And we are proud, I think, to uh, host this classroom and to start this new learning management system. So I'm adding into the chat for everyone the link to join this Google Classroom for our Carolina TESOL professional development. Inside that class, if you go to the classwork, let me see, make sure I'm saying this right. If you go to classwork, there is an entire section for Carolina TESOL Impact, and you can see tonight's session, November 20th, with all of Jason's resources there. So please take a minute to join our Carolina TESOL professional development Google Classroom, and as we start to use that to manage our learning together. I also want to just put out a quick message for anybody who is a member or has other friends who might need to become a member, or if you yourself are not quite yet a member of Carolina TESOL, and we hope that you will join us. So I've just added that link into the chat. And finally, if you have any questions about what we're doing here, how our professional development is organizing for the year, please feel free to email me. I'm Tamara Coburn. You can reach me at pd@carolinatesol.com. We're welcoming a lot of new people now. Thank you for joining us. I would love for you to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know your name and role and where you are located. And thank you, Jason, for making sure you got to show everybody our new Google Classroom. I'm really excited about this attempt to kind of streamline our Google or our Carolina TESOL professional development in one place. So please take a minute to join, and I'll put that code right back in this chat. So if you're interested in having access to all of Jason's resources, go ahead and join our Carolina TESOL Google Classroom. So with that, I'd like to turn it right over to Jason so he can get started and have all of the time he needs. Thank you, Sandy and Lanny, for joining us and for sharing where you're from. And I'm going to turn it over to Jason. Jason, take it away.
Sure. Thank you so very much for the invitation to participate in this very first PD we're offering the Carolina TESOL. So it is my pleasure to be here and really, really glad to be here. Thank you so very much, Tamara, for your introduction, of course. So here we have our Google Classroom for you to take your time to explore, find, the content, the materials we have for the day over here. If you click on classwork, you're gonna find the materials for the day. So first, you're gonna find the PowerPoint presentation. You will also find some handouts about the workshop. Well, not more than workshop, about the presentation and the discussion we'll have today. These materials are going to be really, really, really useful for you today and in the future, of course. And I would also like to say hello. Well, here we have we can say hello to Karen. We have some more participants joining. Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Orozco. Mr. Orozco, Granville County Schools present here. Dana. Then we have Helen, Karen, Vance County, Sandy. Well, I think I know some of you. So you said in the chat. Let me see anybody else over here. At Burke, great. EL director, Vance County High School, Tamuba County Schools, great. Dana, thank you so very much. So welcome to this session today. So I'm going to, okay, so this is the Google Classroom. Now, so I'm not really sure, Tamara, are you going to say something else if you're gonna add something else to what you previously said?
Yeah, I actually could just say that we welcome everybody and please join that class. And again, Jason, we're so glad to have you. We can't wait to hear what you have to tell us.
All right, so yeah, this is gonna be our first PD, but feel free to send your proposals to participate with Carolina Tissot and your PD if you have any topic of interest, something that might be appealing, you think might be appealing to most of our teachers here. You're more than welcome to present your proposals, and here we go. So today today. This is the first. Well, what happened here? Okay, there we go. Give me a minute, please. What's going on with this? Great. Why? Okay. So in our PD today, we'll be talking about crafting effective rubrics, enhancing peer assessment and academic language. I am Jason Herrera. I am the multilingual learners teacher for Warren County Schools. So, well, the first trivia. So I want to hear you. I'm from the country famous for coffee. So can you guess? Yes, famous for flowers, some of the most beautiful flowers. So who would like to guess where I'm from? Remember, you can use the microphone, you can use the chat, and of course, this is anybody? Yes, Colombia.
So
So
we just need people to unmute and tell us what country you are hinting.
yeah. So you can unmute. So remember that you are free to participate. Actually, I have a lot of discussion questions, something which might be, is going to be really enriching as you will have the opportunity to speak with us, tell us about your concerns, tell us about everything you think. And of course, if we can build meaning together, if we can do something together, something reaching, well, that's the idea that we can take something, we can learn something more enriching for each of us. So, well, this is something I really love, and that's Nelson Mandela. If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. But if you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. And we're talking about languages, we're talking about learning any other language. Yeah, there are a lot of different conceptions. That's why I really love this quote, because it reminds us of the importance of understanding the person who is there, his emotions, feeling that is a human being as well. So I really love this quote, and that's something, that's great. So I'm going to introduce myself. Um, as I said before, I'm a multilingual learners teacher at working for Warren County Schools. And in the past elections, I remember you probably saw my name. That was them. Now I'm the new Carolina Tissot Central North Carolina Regional Representative, and I'm really glad to be here. And I'm also glad to be, because I remember I presented in the last year in the 2003 TESOL conference there at Myrtle Beach as well. But I'm also a practitioner, researcher, and lecturer, so I'm interested in research. Today, what I'm going to be talking to you, what we're going to be discussing is about research. We'll be talking about research. Well, just a little bit, but the most important thing here is how to apply that knowledge and how to bring that into real life. So that's my personal information. That's my phone number, my email. So feel free to contact me anytime. Today, during this virtual meeting or PD, we will write and speak, reflect on how we promote academic language and speaking and writing skills, the productive skills, name some formative assessment strategies or techniques, and remember and or learn about the affordances of using peer assessment or anonymous peer assessment. Discuss the rationale for producing rubrics and produce our own rubrics. That's our mission today. So there we go. We also have this parking lot. Remember, you can access the parking lot by clicking here. The PowerPoint presentation is there in our Google Classroom. So if you have not joined that Google Classroom, it is your time to do so. Just click on the link that Tamara shared with you. It's in a chat. If somebody wants us to or would like us to put it there again, it's gonna be there. So you can click on the PowerPoint presentation and click on the parking lot section, and will direct you to the parking lot with some questions there. You can post questions, you can make comments, you can give some feedback, you can make suggestions as well. And or you can just use this code, and that's it. So introduction. Here we go. Well, I remember, yeah, when we talk about speaking skills, let's talk about a little bit about speaking skills and writing skills, at the same time. We understand that they're divided into two parts. The first part is when we talk about those BICS, basic interpersonal communication skills, is the social language our students need to communicate out of the classroom settings. But that academic language proficiency requires more work. That's demanding. That requires a cognitive advanced language proficiency from our students. And that's why we're here. So the first round of questions, so you remember, you can use the chat, you can use the microphone, you can use whatever you want to interact with us, to give us ideas, is, here we go. Teaching academic language. What do you see as the most significant barriers to students acquiring academic language? What do you see as the most significant barriers to students acquiring academic language? So remember, you can post your comments in the chat. So I see some of you are writing down now, or you can use the microphone. Everybody, remember, we're building meaning together. We're working
Mr.
together.
Herrera.
Yes, Mr. Orozco.
Pardon. Probably I'm not gonna be able to type anything because I'm driving, but I would like to give my insight on this. And I think one of the most important or most significant barriers for students is the emotional failure. Most of them, they feel ashamed or just scared of trying a new language.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Orozco. We do appreciate your opinion. Well, here I'm gonna write down emotions. There's something, yeah, sure, definitely. Here, write them down. So at the end, we'll come up with some conclusions from these questions. Anybody else would like to add something? Well, there's somebody in the chat. Lack of opportunity for oral interaction with academic vocabulary. Karen says self-confidence, Sandy, background knowledge and vocabulary interaction. So we have a kind of emotional quotient, and at the same time that the opportunities we grant as teachers, that's what I get here, well, self-confidence, for them to use that academic language. Great, thank you so very much. Number two, so which aspects of academic language? It could be vocabulary, grammar, syntax, discourse. Do your students struggle with the most? And why do you think that is? So could it be vocabulary, grammar, syntax, discourse, and how do you think there's, why do you think there's trouble with that emotion? Okay. Amazing. Thank you very much. So let's read. Well, Tamara, thank you. I think we focus so much on vocabulary that we almost never require or expose discourse. Discourse, that's something key when we talk about academic language. Yeah, definitely. Amazing. Discourse. Discourse involves organization of language, cohesion of language, grades, and density. It is, yeah, I do agree with you. That's why this is the higher order level. That's why discourse. Amazing, amazing, great idea. So that we're building it together. So and here we go with the question number 3. So having a great discussion this afternoon. How do you differentiate instruction to support students who are struggling with academic language, and what strategies have worked for you? This is something absolutely personal. Remember that every teacher is a unique word. So we have different things in mind. We have different background. We have different experiences. We are unique. And of course, one part of those things that makes us unique is the strategies we use with our students. So which strategies have worked for you? Okay, let's see. It's about syntax. Thank you, Karen. I think that's about the previous question, lack of vocabulary. So what is your secrets? Would like to know your secrets. Would like to know about you. What makes you, okay. Oh, scared. The strategies. Playing with language, individual needs, in mind helps. Great, amazing. Let me go with this because I'm planning scaffolding into lesson rather than looking for other ways to do it after planning the regular lesson. Oh, amazing. Scaffolded lessons. Yeah, great. And then also linguistic supports. Thank you, Helen. Thank you very much for your participation here, such as sentence frames and paragraph frames. Word banks also include accountability for say 3 out of 5 words in writing. Yeah, great. That really works. That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much. Dana, sentence frames, word banks. Sentence frames, yeah, it could be. That reminds me of those sentence starters. Could be stem sentences. Probably, yeah. Let them know some more. Give them some more language to explore. Say this, say that with different words. And here we go with the number 4. Wow, wow, wow! I love this question. Well, personally, that's one of my favorite ones. What role do cultural and linguistic backgrounds play in students' ability to understand and use academic language? How do you address these factors in your teaching? What role do you think cultural and linguistic backgrounds play in students? What roles? Is it really, really, really important?
So
To what
Jason, I'm
extent?
gonna unmute this time to put my answer just because I want to encourage Cesar and others who are perhaps driving to also unmute and use their mics if they can do so safely. One of the things I like that comes out of WIDA is this phrase that talks about not just being culturally responsive, but culturally and linguistically sustaining. So the idea that we are sustaining and building up and celebrating the cultural and linguistic backgrounds that our students bring to us and not a substitutionary practice, right? So part of that role is sort of inherent on me representing the system to build in those sustaining practices.
The sustaining practices, that's amazing. Thank you very much.
Hey, I'm sorry again. I think culture is embedded in each child and each person personality. Is what makes us what we are. As you were saying a couple minutes ago, we each one of us is unique. And culture is uniqueness.
You
And if you allow culture to permeate your teaching, it will help your students to go through this to reach what they want to reach, because it will make it easier for them to identify a couple of things and make it
Mhm.
uh, uh, and achievable for them.
Amazing, amazing. So it's a yeah, yeah, definitely. I do agree with you, Mr. Roscoe. So Helen, build on the cultural linguistic assets that students bring to the classroom. Yeah, sure, sure. And that reminds us of that WIDA, the four big ideas in equity, equity. So remember, we're talking about, yeah, that's equity as well. Thank you, Helen. Thank you very much. To include both because it is a part of the identity. Identity, I do love that word. And by allowing themselves or them to express what they know. Mm-hmm. Your access their assets. Yeah, 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 I do agree. Will also be able to formally assess what they know and what you need to cover. Assess what they know and based on that, yeah, yeah, get the idea. What they know, yeah, what they need to cover. Yeah, the needs analysis. That's amazing, Sandy. Thank you so very much for your participation in this chat. And we're moving on to the last couple of questions. And I will tell you how those questions connect with the ideas I will tell you about in a couple of minutes. Teaching academic language, question number 5. What are those common misconceptions that students have about academic language? What are those misconceptions they have about it? And how do you address what do you tell your students? What do you ask them to do? How do you, yeah, one of them could be that it's difficult, that make they might find it challenging, that they could never. Yeah, let's see. Feel they speak enough English. Uh-huh. Well, Helen, academic language is no one's native language. It must be acquired by English speakers as well. That's certainly true.
Yeah, I think in terms of academic language, we all are English language learners, because it depends of the subject we need to speak about or we need to write about. There are a specific vocabulary or a glossary that we need to use, and the students probably they think that is those are too big words to use, and they are not going to use it in a regular day.
Mm-hmm.
Probably that's something half true, half fake. I don't know.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So students might think it's too hard, too hard. That's what they might think. I've heard my kiddos when they're too dumb asking why. I believe they can exit this year. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's something really breaks. Yeah, heartbreaking. Yeah, I do agree with you. They can see the magic of their multilingualism, and they think, Dana, thank you very much, they can't be successful. We need to teach them how to link their past learning to their new concepts and give them support scaffold to be successful. Scaffolding again, yes, I do agree with you. Scaffolding is absolutely important, especially from us and especially from, yeah, I do agree. And I got a couple of stories to tell. I'm going to tell you those stories in a minute because I also went through some of those issues, those heartbreaking situations myself. Sometimes my heart was broken, especially with the academic language. But yeah, well, here I am. And number 6, this is the last question from this round of questions. at the very, very first part of this session. Which aspects of academic language, vocabulary, grammar, syntax, and discourse do your students struggle with the most? And why do you think that is? I think okay, I think it's the same questions we had over here. Yeah, over here. Yeah, and why do you think that is? Yeah, it's the same. Well, 5 questions. Why? So you might be wondering one. So, well, it was kind of introduction, and now we know we'll be talking about this academic language versus social language. Now, what do we have next? We understand that academic language is the language which is distinct from the language in the classroom settings. It is the entrance to the classroom environment, and of course, the language that they need to succeed because they build their unique personal linguistic based on their linguistic experiences. Of course, some people call the academic language of power, language of power, and what everyone needs to be successful. When Mr. Orozco was talking about the academic language, yes, definitely, and some of you agreed with the same point. Everybody must work hard. It doesn't matter if English is your native language, but you must go through a process, and that's something challenging, especially for those people who grew up in a different context with a different native language. But in general, the mastery of that academic language might lead to access to more content and, of course, to succeed academically and professionally. Yeah, of course, let's say that. At a discourse level, definitely, Helen, Dana, when you're talking about discourse level, that's the language that goes beyond the words at a sentence level, the basic language. And of course, we need to be more aware. We need to instruct our learners with some more cognitive strategies, metacognitive strategies, and using, of course, um, formative assessment strategies. I'll tell you, well, we'll talk about formative assessment strategies in a minute because that's something I think everyone knows. But the idea of these PDs and being here together as we have the time to reflect, to bring those things that might have been impacted for some time. But let's talk about those questions. What do you think a student? Yeah, and this is this is what. Look at this. What is coming? Productive skills. When you ask a student, all right, everyone, yeah, here you are, to this speaking task or writing task, what do you think comes to their minds? Well, what exactly am I supposed to say, all right? Does it sound familiar? Or probably, yes, your participation, amazing. Yes, the connection between discourse, yes, Tamara, and learning activities, that's amazing. What exactly am I supposed to say? All right. Does it sound familiar? What else? How will my work be assessed or graded? Do they ask you about that? Or not? Not really. Could be yes or not, or sometimes. How will my work be assessed or graded? Do I get credits? In some schools, yeah. In some schools, yes, the ESL class grants credits, academic, those grades they need in their high school. What is the best way to submit or present my task? Of course, some students wonder about that because they are worried and they're encouraged to succeed academically and have a great, really, really great tasks. Then what if I don't feel inspired or interested in the topic? And that happens to all of us. One day you want to do one thing, one day you feel like, hey, today I don't feel like I really want to perform this task. I don't feel like I really want to do this. I don't feel like I really want to do that. And here is when that encouragement, when that motivation is lost for a while. But we need to, yeah, it is essential to try and find out those strategies to encourage them. How do I deal with any anxiety? Especially when you ask them to record their voices. Yeah, they had that experience. We were recording our voices in the classroom, saying, no, Everyone was silent. Yeah, who wants to go first? Who wants to go first? Yeah, go, go, go. Wow. Well, if you have some more questions your students, you think your students ask themselves, you're more than welcome to write them down in the chat in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So now that we're talking about speaking skills, so I got a really, really great story to tell here. Yes, speaking skills. What can you see in the can you describe what you see in the on the screen? Of course, what we see there is an apple. Apple, really the apple. I really love this story because I tell can you imagine a context 1987, 1988, 1989, late 80s where not many people spoke English. When they learned the English alphabet, it was A, B, C, D. So if that's A, so it would be A, but why not? And some teachers pronounce that word. So I think that's what I tell my students, and I tell people when I speak about speaking skills and the way I learned. Because I say, well, I belong to the Apple generation. Because in Colombia, in my country, when I grew up, teachers, well, did not have much access to listen to the real language experience, the real language. And then, well, my kindergarten teacher and primary school, well, first grade teacher said to me that pronunciation, yeah, do you want an apple, apple, apple? That's because the alphabet was A, B, C, D. Yeah, with the passing of time, and now in the 90s and in the 2000s, well, something revolutionary happened. And now our teachers could take to our classroom those tape recorders. I'm not sure, but well, when I attended university, I remember it was the third semester, and I met this teacher. He was a techie guy. He took his tape recorder with him, and he played that tape. And everyone was like, "Yeah, and do you expect us to complete this based on using the information in the yeah, that I think that was one of those first times when I heard somebody speaking English in academic English in a conference, and like a fill in a gaps task. And that was fun, because sometimes you think about the listening skills and the connection with the speaking skills, and you say, wow, is there really a connection? To what extent are they connected? Is it true that the basic listening skills will lead to more proficient speaking skills? Or yeah, so with the new era, the technology, then we had those compact discs, and then, well, we could listen to music. Those who love music, I know that's a great tool as well. But yeah, nowadays we're in a digital era, and what we expect our students. Do you remember how teachers assessed our speaking task when we were at the university, those first, second, third semesters? So everyone was oral presentations, oral presentations, oral presentations, oral presentations. So things change, times change, everything changes, and nowadays we have those digital recordings. Um, we can use to assess our students. So that's different challenges for everyone. Every decade, every time brings different challenges for everyone. So what I like, well, here, because we're talking about digital recorders, you can have access to this list of audio recording tools. Probably you know some of them, probably you don't, but the idea of these meetings is to get to know some more things probably you're familiar with. Some of them are free, some of them have a cost, but well, the great thing about this is that you understand how to use them, and that might be really, really appealing and useful to most of us. Thank you very much, Tamara. So it is also there in the Google Classroom. You can click there and you will get the list of those tools. So now what about the writing skills? And here is when I like talking about this because, yeah, nowadays I'm telling you, well, I am a yeah, we can have these questions: what is writing, why is important, the types of writing, the mechanics for writing, if you want to focus on writing as a process or writing as a product, if you want to use strategies like quick writing, like collaborative writing, which is great as well, something that learners can use to improve, to increase their cognitive and metacognitive awareness. That'll be great. But I'm going to tell you about a little bit about my story, personal story with writing. So I was looking for, yeah, and I remember when I started writing, when I got immersed into academic writing, before I started writing those articles, and sending them. That was quite a lot of fun because, yeah, I had the feeling that I could express myself and make people understand what I was. And that's something that happens to most of our students. That probably we do not think that much, or we don't know the mechanics. I would say the mechanics of writing sometimes, and that's why that leads to some unexpected situations. I am a musician, and 10 years ago, when I started doing my masters, I used to write songs and poetry and the philosophy. And then when I showed my teachers my homework, and they say, hey, Jason, this is not a song. This, this is not philosophy. This is not about that. I would like you to, academic writing is something different. And that was very shocking for me at the beginning because, yeah, it took me some time to learn how to write and how to be proficient in academic writing. That's not an easy process. And by the way, I would like to say, well, here we have, well, this is something about me, something personal. This is the Latin Trois. I'm also a musician, guitarist, and there is Mr. Orozco Vale. This is the ESL team from Granville County Schools. And well, I'm the only one there from Warren County. I just wanted to take this, moment to say hello and thank you very much, Mr. Orozco, for your support, Valeria, and to everyone who's here. Well, we think next year we'll be there at the TESOL conference playing. That's what I hope. Well, when we talk about formative assessment, it is different from summative assessment because when you learn about formative assessment, what you do is you get some ideas to do what to try and help your students to perform better. Well, the idea is to perform better, but honestly, is try to find find ways to encourage them, to motivate them to go through something different, to encourage them. That's what I have found myself when I talk about formative assessment. So during my process, I have found lots of strategies like observations, questioning, discussions, journals, projects, and but what I decided to do a couple of years ago was to use peer assessment, anonymous peer assessment. I put anonymous there because you can also decide on you if you want to use peer assessment or anonymous peer assessment. And the idea of using peer assessment is really amazing. Why? Because they do not feel it does not have the same effect when you tell you're a teacher and you're there and you have your student and you tell your student, hey, you're doing great, this is the best thing I have ever seen, yeah, you can do it, you can, because they're used to that. Because we always try and encourage you these days. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not telling us, no, this is wrong, you should not do that, that's the worst thing I've seen. No, we do not do that. Actually, so most students are used to listening to us, encouraging them, using positive reinforcement. But it is something different when they listen to that reinforcement, to that positive reinforcement from their peers. Why? Because they have an equal status. And when they listen to those comments from their peers, coming from their peers, they feel like, wow, really? Is it really happening? And that's the effect. Yes, you can do it. You're doing really great. This is something really great what you're doing. So in those educational contexts, when you use peer assessment, it could bring lots of great affordances to our classroom. In order to be effective, They must be involved in reflective on the quality of their partner's work. And of course, it increases cognitive and metacognitive awareness because they need to understand what they are to perform and how they are to perform what they have to do. So in order to you see high level cognitive processes, of course, because they have to understand what to do and how to do it. When we talk about anonymity in peer assessment, when I did an action research project a couple of years ago, and probably you know this, the context was Warren County schools. I'm located over here. This is the borderline with Virginia, it's close to Vance County and Granville as well. So I decided I want to try something different, and I could, because some people ask me, "Hey, Jason, but you're doing this. You say you're going to do that anonymous peer assessment, but how many students do you have?" I serve 5 schools. Some teachers only serve 1 schools. So ideas and strategies work differently in different contexts, because this is not the same to have this context with my students. If you work only for 1 school, this is, you need to rethink and try and adapt some of those strategies, and then you'll be more likely to use them with your students. But the basic thing and the most important thing here is that you belong to a different and unique context, which is different from my context. This worked for me, so I'm telling you, anonymous peer assessment, but you can also try and do peer assessment. So the main questions I had for my research project were these 2 questions. What are the differences between learners pre-test and post-test in the WIDA access test, in their academic speaking skills after using the anonymous peer assessment? And the question number 2 is connected to the variables and the insights and experiences from those learners when they use the anonymous peer assessment, those audio recorders during the pedagogical intervention. So these are some insights. 2022 access test result outlined that 50% of them, you see the red in the graph, the red lines, that those were their speaking skills. So at the end of the pedagogical interventions, we have different results. So I also use different kind of data collection instruments like pre and post tests, the with access test, the reflective journal. There were a couple of surveys, and of course the focus groups with them. So the pedagogical intervention was for 150 total hours along 10 weeks, 10 hours per month for multilingual learner, 30-minute sessions twice a week, and that was between November, December, January, and then they took the access test. Anonymous peer assessment, well, I used the anonymous peer assessment rubrics, the audio recorder, sentence starters, some sentences, storyboards, pie charts, graph pictures, and posters. And well, I can go on, yeah, because we have just 15 minutes. So the results where 93% of those multilingual learners improved their grades in the speaking part of the test, which is, a really high number, really big number. This is the 2022, 50% were, all of them were in developing, emerging, and entering levels. And then look at this after the anonymous peer assessment. But as I said before, that worked for me, for my context, for my students. I work for 5 schools. I know you might be, well, you are different, definitely in a different context, different needs, different students, different ideas, different strategies, different personality, well, everything is different, but yeah, why not to think about it? So you want to use anonymous peer assessment. Some of their perceptions at the end of the study is that it increased the students' cognitive awareness and a new understanding on how to use the academic language to form sentences with vocabulary was noticeable. Then, when peer assessing, most of the students tend to focus on delivering positive reinforcement to encourage their partners perform better. And that's true. There is an innate will to see their peers succeeding. And that's what we do when we have, at the beginning is, well, this is important for us. So yeah, of course, you're doing great. This is an amazing thing that you're doing. yeah, I think it could improve this and that, but that positive reinforcement was noticeable, and I think that was what triggered their success in the end. So let's see what we have here. Thank you, Tamara. Ined will to see peers succeeding. That's awesome. Yeah, yes, of course. There is an innate will to see them succeeding. That's what I noticed from my journal and the data collection instruments. They didn't want their peers to fail. They knew that was important for them, and they say, yeah, even if they did not reach the goals, because if you compare those grades that the teachers give to those grades that their peers give, peers are going to give higher grades. And that's also, there's some research that supports that. So that's something to consider if you want to use peer assessment. Also, those findings will reveal that positive feedback and reinforcement multilingual learners delivering the positive feedback help them to gain self-confidence to perform their tasks. They say, yeah, I'm doing well, I'm the best, doing a really great job. So yeah, I'm gonna record to my boss this time. Like, blah, blah, blah. I remember we had this conversation with a colleague, and he said, yeah, we were there in a meeting, and they say when you ask the students to speak, they don't say anything, and that's because probably they're scared, and they are not used to listening to their voices, which was another finding. Well, learning tools, gadgets, web tools, and devices used to promote speaking skills increase the affective filter of students. Increase, decrease. That was, yeah, gadgets used to promote speaking, increase. Yeah, there more anxiety. There was more fear, and of course that was really um, that really affects the results. Pedagogical implications, as we go. We have enough time, 10 minutes, like, to talk about the rubrics. I'll tell you how to use the material over here. There is something I'd like to share with you. This is the result of a research project, so you can use it at your will, and decide on how to use it in your context with your students. Positive reinforcement to encourage students and learners to perform better academic tasks. Forms, rubrics, or checklists must be created based on learners' specific learning needs, and they should be easy to read and follow. It is different if you're creating a rubric for a newcomer or for a long-term English learner. That's totally different, because you with multilingual with these long-term learners, we can be more specific about what we want from them. But with those newcomers, they just need to be encouraged, and I will show you how I did that with my newcomers. To work together with your students in the creation of assessment criteria. Why? Because that will increase their cognitive awareness. They will know what to do and how to do. Well, how later, but what to do. The what do I have to do? Yes, I have to do this and that. Formative assessment, when you create your rubrics. You can also try and, well, before peers assessing, instruct them, yes, on how to use those tools, how to use those forms, how to use those checklists, how to use the format, about the format, language, organization of the language. And also grant learners opportunities to reflect on their progress. Okay, let's get down to work together. Crafting effective rubrics requires creating an environment that encourages participation, fairness, and meaningful feedback. Here are some considerations to ensure the success of anonymous peer assessment. Here we go. Let's see their purpose. To set a common framework for language evaluation. You also provide learners with clear expectations. You increase the consistency and objectivity of evaluating. Okay, yes, thank you very much, Tamara. Don't forget, our parking lot is over there for your questions. To provide information to get learners to know where they are and where they are expected to be, support learning, good thinking, and development of skills, and of course, to guide our students. Those are the main purposes. How to develop it, you decide, you make decisions on that. what you want to encompass. Yeah. You need to review previous student work, define the dimensions, adopt scales, develop draft, evaluate that rubric, and then pilot and then test and revise and try it again, adjust and try it again, adjust and try again, share it with students, share it with parents. This is what you're expected to do. This is what your children are expected to do. So that would be great if one of those family nights of parent meetings, you say, well, I got this rubric. This is when they speak. They have to be able to use this, and they should be, because sometimes say, yeah, you have to study, you have to work hard, you have to. Yes, but I know that. But what do I have to do? Something specific that might take their children to succeed. It could be a great tool. And that's something that just comes to my mind. You must, as I told you, that depends on your context, what you want to do, what expect them to do. Do you want them to describe, report events, request information, respond to requests, give examples, agreeing or disagreeing? That's up to you. So please complete. Yeah, Tamara, thank you very much. Complete your attendance over there in 10 minutes. If you want to express opinions, giving instructions, making suggestions, and so on. So and the criteria, you can focus on grammatical accuracy, range of structure and vocabulary, stress intonation, pronunciation, fluency, register, task achievement, or other. Please, you can specify. That's up to you. Some great strategies to promote them. Remember that you will have access to this presentation, so you feel free to use this information to help your students, to help them improve their productive skills. It is not just about speaking, but you can use them with writing. And here, this is the material, what we have in the Google Classroom. Yeah, I'm going to go to the Google Classroom right now, straight away. So I'm sharing with you. This is what I'm sharing with you. So this is the PowerPoint presentation, and it's, the most enriching part of it is what, well, I really expect it. I told you about the newcomers and long-term English learners. If you want to use a rubric with newcomers, and they feel really scared about talking they're on a microphone, or if they don't give long sentences, or they don't utter a lot of words, or you can do something very simple. Criteria, well, your partner described the picture. You can start with that, because sometimes they don't. Your partner justify claims and opinions, made guesses about what's going on in the picture. Your partner spoke clearly, confidently, at a good volume. Look at that. You try to make it very, very, very simple. You produce a smooth speech, use the vocabulary, produce grammatically correct sentences, correct pronunciation or not. And the most important here, of course, please use these expressions to make positive comments and or suggestions to your peers. I am impressed by the way you do this. I'm impressed by the way you do that. You're outstanding when you, and there you go. I love it when you use this expression at the beginning of your description, or at the beginning of your writing, of your paragraph. I love two positive comments and some, suggestions. I wish, or it could be something very, very, very simple you can use with your newcomers. So you can edit this. This is a Word document. You can edit this, and feel free to use it. What about those long-term English learners? We can have, we use this rubric, which is more specific. So, we can also, as I said before, because I understand more, here you can focus on using those adverbs of frequency, efficient, well, sometimes, usually, never, barely, some others, adverbs of manner, and, well, whatever you want to use. But you see, my performance criteria, range, accuracy, fluency, coherence. And of course, if you see here in the accuracy, which is connected to grammar, I give them the specific vocabulary they need to use. Like I absolutely love, I really, or I quite like, I am not keen on, or I don't mind, or I really hate. So that will give them more range of the use of the language, you know. So it's quite similar. The only thing which is different is efficiently. So your partner can use the structures in the present simple to talk about likes and dislikes, such as I absolutely. And here in number 3, approach at an approaching level. Your partner sometimes uses the structures in the present simple to talk about likes and dislikes, like absolutely love, and again, absolutely love. And here for beginners, the beginning, your partner hardly ever uses suggested structures in the present simple. So this could be a really, really, really great approach using those peer assessment rubrics. And you also have the template. I share the template with you, so feel free to download this template and remember to use those expressions. Well, I'm pretty sure that when you download this Word document, it's going to be working really great. You can give them 2 stars, say, well, I love it when your stats outstanding when I'm impressed by, but always asking your student to peer assess using those expressions to promote, to propel, to foster positive reinforcement. Okay. Well, there is also a rubrics for rubrics. You can use this rubric to evaluate your rubric. It will tell you if it is strong, medium, or weak. If it is the criteria well organized, the number of fits, well, the language, the levels are well defined, if there are parallel levels or not. So, well, you can use these rubrics at your convenience, okay? The audio recording tools, webs to promote, the templates, so everything is there. So feel free to use those materials. Feel free to use those strategies. Feel free to use everything you have there. I'm really glad to be here sharing with you this. You know, I will have 3 minutes left. Thank you so very much. Well, remember that we have the list. This is very, very important for us. So thank you for joining us today. So take a minute to please share your feedback by completing this Google form. This is absolutely important for us. And also your attendance. And remember, if you can submit a proposal if you want to take part of these PDs. As you see, this is something that the idea is that we as teachers have the opportunity to share. We as teachers have the opportunity to learn from each other. And well, I think this is it. Thank you so very much, Tamara. If there is anything else you'd like to say, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jason, for being here. There is a story about the first penguin that jumps into the cold water at the season when they leave the land and go into the water. And I just want to thank you for being our first penguin as we launch this new series called Carolina TESOL Impact. We are currently soliciting proposals for the 2025 year. So please, if you're interested, go ahead and fill out that form with a proposal idea. The idea here is that you would work with me. I would have a chance to support you as you build and rehearse with you. So all of these things that Jason and I were able to do together as he helped me plan systems of support for this series. So make sure that you do the feedback form. That is how we confirm your attendance. If you do not get a certificate of attendance almost immediately after you submit your feedback form, you might need to try it again with a different email address. So certain school districts' email addresses block emails from Carolina TESOL for whatever reason. So if that happens to you, just try another email address. A personal email address would probably work, and then see if it can go through. If you have any questions, like I said before, you can reach me, Tamara Coburn, at pd@carolinatesol.com. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much for your attendance. And well, I'm going to take a look at the parking lots. If there is any last question in 1 minute,
Yeah,
can
for
check
sure.
it out in one minute. I don't think there are no questions. No.
Right. Well, we're so glad everybody joined us. I'm going to stop the recording.